Welcome to the future of Hare Hollow Farm. We're doing this video, hopefully it's pretty easy, in lieu of a podcast episode this week, because I have a lot to do for Denver AARPE, which is coming up this weekend. If you're nearby, check it out. Just in general, these are just sort of thoughts. I've been sort of ruminating on them in the member lives, thinking about them. So a lot of these topics will be things that have people who are especially members will have already heard, but I was like, what if we consolidated into one spot? Like, what am I doing this year with the business, with animal sales, with production? And you can decide if this is helpful. It's not necessarily even advice, but I've always liked listening to someone who is working on something or has a goal or a business, and they're like, why do I do things? Why do chocolate chip cookies sell better than white chocolate macadamia nut cookies? Why? I don't know why, but I want to hear the person who sells the cookies explain why and what they're going to do about it to make things different. This B-roll back here is from the OKC Show Me show from last month. Hopefully it's not too irritating. It's for flavor. It's only flavor. I thought about doing a video for it. Didn't. That's okay. Let's go back in time. It's 2023. You know, a lot of the price falls were happening, but hadn't fully happened. They were mid-happening in terms of certain morphs and species. I remember going through 2023, and I only did 5 shows at that time. All 3 OKC Show Me's and 2 Shawnees, and that was it. And I was like, this is pretty good enough for me. Online sales really slowed down a lot then. So I was like, you know, they're okay. But in the spring and fall, which is normal, but I had no inquiries from April to October that year. And I'm like, none. And that was not good. So we changed the strategy for 2024. I was like, okay, if people can't afford to buy things and ship them, then maybe they will pick them up in person more. And so I was like, I will just do more shows. Still have some stuff online for sale and see how that works in 2024. So 2024, I didn't even count, but around 15 shows. I went further away from where I am in different markets, different show promoters, just to see what the differences are. And can we sell enough snakes to sort of make up for the missing online sales? And I think the experiment is overall a success because I learned a lot about the shows in my area, not just the 2 that were in OKC. I learned which ones are better at what time, what species do better at which shows, what's the sort of price that does the best at shows. Because if you go to a show and you sell one snake because you're holding your price at $200 for that snake, it doesn't actually make sense with all the fixed costs. But we'll get into that a little bit more. Another pro was that gross sales were up basically across the board for 2024. I don't have very many leftover 2024 babies. I was able to sell some of the leftover 2022s in 2024 because remember 2023 was bad. And I sold lots of 2023s. Any of those that were left over, pretty much all gone. If they weren't like a holdback and then recently converted to for sale. So that's good. We love that. I covered the expenses of the show at every show with sales. Every time. So it's not like no one was buying anything ever. People would buy stuff all the time. And I met lots of fun people, both vendors and customers, and they're all very cool. So that's not what's up for contingent. What are the cons of this strategy in 2024? The expenses were way up. So you did sell more things, but it costs more money to acquire those customers. And this is something I think I would like to hammer home really hard. Just because you've covered the expenses of the show and even made a little bit of profit, it doesn't actually mean the whole business is profitable, really. Because the show is supposed to cover the expenses of the show and then pay for the collection that produced those babies. All of their expenses. feeders, food for your sort of homegrown rodents, bedding, whatever. Any of the consumables, including electricity, by the way, the profits from the show are supposed to come back and pay for it. Do they? We'll see. For me, if shows are the primary way of converting the snakes into money to buy all those things, and the cost of acquiring those customers was the sort of fixed cost of vending the show, a lot of times you're still not really making any money. I mean, overall, in the whole business, the show could be profitable, it could drive later sales, but if it's not profitable enough, it doesn't pay enough money back to the main collection to keep that one in the black. And that's very dependent on like how big the parent collection is and how much the babies need to make to pay for their parents' bedding or whatever. If you sell $1,000 snakes at a show that costs you about $500 to be there because of tables, mileage, hotel, hypothetically, whatever, it's sort of like, if you think about it, you're running a 50% off sale online, but with more steps to acquire the sale. There's so much expenses built in. You could have just stayed home, ran a sale or an auction or whatever, and had more cash conversion back to you to go buy bedding, right? And I think if you think about it like that, you're like, oh. And there are benefits to going to shows. We'll get into that. But it's much easier to stay home and run a 50% off sale than try to hustle $1,000 worth of snakes, but only make half of the value from it. Okay? The workflow in your main collection changes materially because you're not there. Okay? Chores get put off. Some chores get delayed. Some classes of animals don't get fed at the time they would normally get fed. That's just mathematically how it works. I don't know how to help you. Like, of course it's going to shift chores. Of course. And maybe that's fine. You can withstand the burden of doing that. And it especially helps if you have a spouse or kids or paid employees that can also do those tasks. But if you do not do those tasks, or you don't have someone who does those tasks, then who's going to do them? The Tooth Fairy? No, you are when you get back. So, my local shows are extremely price competitive. This has a lot to do with the cost of living in your area. Largely, sales of snakes of any species happen in the $50 to $100 range. $100 to $500 sometimes. $500 over? Never, basically never. So, it takes a lot of $50 to $100 snakes to even make $500 show cost. It doesn't really include the sort of cost of production built into each snake. So you really need to sell like $1,000 worth of snakes if you're accounting for the cost of production of all those snakes to make $500 to pay for the table. So it's still not really profitable, really. Show pricing, like I said, because some shows are very price competitive, are cheaper than morph market pricing. Clearly. Some of them are more in some ways, which is weird. Depends on where you are and what it is. Because some things nobody wants to ship. And so they'll pay $100 for it at a show. And on Morph Market, it might be $20. Because it's like it should really be a pet person thing. But in general, for something that's maybe $400 on Morph Market, it probably is $200 at a show. So if you just put it on Morph Market, negotiated down to $300 when they need their pound of flesh, you would have netted more money staying home than going to the show and trying to like string together multiple small sales to cover the cost of the table. And I know some people's areas have shows that are one day, really close to their house. The table costs $80 a table. They get 2 tables. It's $160. They have no hotel expenses, just their gas. It doesn't take that many $50 snakes to cover the table and make some more and help them get rid of some of the low-end babies. That's good. Good for you. That does not exist near me. The way where I live works, The shows are 2 days, almost always. I mean, there's a cold-blooded in Tulsa that's 4 hours away. That's 1 day. But I wouldn't drive 4 hours to do a 1 day show. So I'm not going to make enough money to justify being there. 4 days, there's like maximum incentive to bring the maximum number of animals that are maximally cheap. Sell a bunch of them to just cover the table and the expenses. But all of those animals had their fixed costs built in. So it'd be cheaper to stay home. There's a lot of stealing from Peter to pay Paul sort of stuff. Like, you make a snake to fill a table, but the snake needs to sell to pay for the table. But none of that is ever actually that profitable per se. You're just sort of trying to get rid of your byproduct, hypothetically. But since there's this like circular... there's never that much profit that comes back and pays for the collection's care. Maybe a couple $100 here, $500 there at a good show. But is there a lot of money? No. If you take the whole year's profit and loss statement, you can tell it's basically like a cool way to break even with a lot of labor. Okay, so let's say you're a person and you're like, I'm a good person. I have a good reputation. I test all my snakes for rhinovirus. I'm trying to sell snakes to these beautiful people. If they look at your table and they look at your snakes and they think they look nice, but you're like, I want to charge 20% more than the mean of my show because I am a cool person and I deserve it. Sometimes you can convince people of that, depending on if it's like $50 versus $70. But if you're like, I think my $300 snake should be $300 and I don't have to like bow down to the market rate around here of $150. A lot of times they don't know who you are to be like, yeah, it's worth paying for the extra peace of mind that it's a healthy snake that's actually on frozen thawed. They don't care. The general public does not know who you are and they do not care about you. And they will buy based on price. So that's fine. Good for them. We love that for them. But someone may buy based on price online, you know, because they could look you up and know that you're worth paying $50 more because you seem like an upstanding person. Okay, so those are my thoughts. These thoughts are not new. I think I did a video about this like last year about like fixed costs. And the answer is, for me, as follows. Okay, we're in the second quarter of 2025. It just started. I'm going to do the shows that I signed up to do. So I just did the Show Me Spring and Dallas. And those were both good, strong shows in my opinion. And I'm not depressed about them. And I have Denver this weekend. And I have Kansas ARPE next month. And then I have sort of like a carryover tables from Shawnee in July. But after that, I don't know which shows to do. I think like the big three there, Denver, Kansas, Dallas, are like the best contenders because they have other sort of intangible benefits to being there in terms of different regions. So you're maybe hitting up different people, but we'll get into that a little bit more. But I might go back down to some combination of only those three. And if I need to do a little show for fun sometimes, I will. But I probably won't most of the time. It won't be the plan for how I sell sort of the pet quality animals I happen to produce. The intangible benefits to a show is part of the calculation of whether or not it's worth doing a show. Like if you make some sales and they're either maybe a little under, but not really enough to be really profitable, but there's these other benefits that are very strong at that show, you should want to do the show. One of the ones is like if that show is like a touchstone for that area's like meetups, and you can hit up, and people will be like incentivized to come buy from you because they are normally living 5 hours south of the show and you're coming from 3 hours north of the show, and they can check your website and be like, oh, you have this for sale? We'll pack that one up. I'll pick it up when I get there. That's sort of like time-sensitive forcing of whether or not someone wants to engage with your inventory is good. Pickups are good, and that's a reason to lose money on a show. They know you're going to be there. They can plan to pick up a $2,000 snake, a $100 snake. It doesn't matter just because they know you'll be there. The pickups and the post-show sales are best when the show is sort of important to the region. I mean, Dallas and RBC would be one where I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense there. Because there's a lot of people near there. They don't always come up where I live, but if I come to them and I know I have it, they could pick it up. So that's a good reason to keep doing a show, even if the show's sales itself are sort of, mid. Networking opportunities, as always, very important. There's networking opportunities literally everywhere, but the best ones are the ones where there are the most people in the hobby there, and they're the most sort of established people in the hobby there, which biases that towards bigger shows, unfortunately. And then opportunities to make YouTube and Instagram content. Obviously, you can make that at any show. That's not what's up for debate, but it's easier at a bigger show. Like, there's hypothetically more vendors to make content on or with. You have stuff to talk about and people to interview and maybe rare species to highlight, whatever. You can do that anywhere. It's better at a bigger show. And then a lot of these benefits you could have without actually vending the show. You attend the show. So if you want to make content, if you want to network, if you want to if you're going to drive in, you could arrange pickups without actually vending. You just go. So I'm not saying don't go to shows, and I'm also not saying don't vend shows. But for me, knowing that shows are basically lost leaders in terms of what you're selling, they need to be very valuable. Valuable to me and my sanity and my business. And to be clear, if I had a show that was 20 minutes away from my house and it had very low table cost and I could just pop in for $60 a table one day, I would do it all day. Because it's like a good YOLO, $60. We'll see who in my area maybe is interested in a species that I'm interested in. We're going to talk to people, whatever. It's when it's $500 just to get into the door and you're trying to make up all this burden of sales, and then you don't have anything left to sell online necessarily for the national audience, and then nobody knows who you are, and it doesn't matter. All of those sales are sort of whatever. So this year's online sales strategy, I'll go back to photographing every baby from every pairing for animals that are selectively bred and putting them on the website, which is what I did in 23, but I just did not have enough time or wherewithal in 24. And you're like, Jessica, what's wrong with you? You should. And I'm like, there's something that takes every part of my soul in like preparing for going to, coming back, and then struggling to catch up at shows. So I did not do it. I'm sorry. And then keeping the website updated is important because that's where your most valuable customers will come a-calling. The ones that actually want to buy from you specifically, not because you're the cheapest person at their local show. And I would like to update the website to reflect more sort of what species I'm working with. There's a bunch of species that are missing, or like the trajectory of like what my common species projects are looking like right now. I sold some of those animals, sold a lot of adults of different things to try to switch it up, update. So I want space, time, mental energy for updating. We love updating. And for the low value animals that probably would have been a show kind of animal, obviously wholesale's still there if and when you can find it. And I will probably switch to a free shipping model, which I hate, on Morph Market or wherever, just because if that's the barrier to purchasing for pet people, then I will allow it. I don't like it because it includes the price of the animal. Is the animal 80? Is it 100? Is it 120 plus 40? Do you want to know? Maybe they don't care. Maybe that's the thing. Only I care. They don't care. So here we are. I'll just do it. Okay? I'm talking like a snow corn. Just make it 150 shipped. Even though, in my opinion, it's like an $80 snake. Or make it 120 shipped. Whatever. We'll just eat it and we'll build it all in. And hopefully they will enjoy their snow corn snake. It's not an expensive snake. As always, social media is free promotion. We love social media, and we love providing value. We want people to learn things, think about things, practice what we preach here. I don't do enough social media. And you're like, Jessica, sure you do. I'm like, no, I don't. Everyone could always do more. Everyone could always optimize the message better. We could always be re-explaining the same things again and again ad nauseum. What is Nidovirus? What are we doing? Why are we here? What are we talking about? Why is this species cool? Those messages need to be made and remade continuously, because there's a continuous sort of loop of people getting in the hobby and getting out. So if you're a person who breeds ball pythons and you want people to be really interested in your whatever ultramel pied project, you basically have to continuously toss out seeds of like, why is this cool? Here's the dad. Here's the babies. And since I have so many snakes of so many species, I need to even more continuously toss out more seeds, more shorts, more reels, more YouTube digestible content, how to pick a corn snake project, whatever. Because long form like this is already long. I can tell it's 25 minutes. Most people don't want to sit and listen to some weird lady talk for 25 minutes about snakes. They need pieces. They need to know why it's a fun hobby. They need to know why their snakes are beautiful. The lizards are gorgeous. They need to know. And I have to do more of that. The mental space is only there if I do less shows. Just saying. And then I've talked about this a couple times, like the showcase model, where you apply a sale, a time-sensitive sale, and it's not a live auction, it's a live sale, but it maybe lasts all weekend. Somebody can come on, show 12 snakes that they like, that are cool, that are maybe what they would have maybe needed to sell at a show. And then at that moment, they're all paired with the sale function turned on Morph Market or on Husbandry Pro. It's on their website. Go over here. They're all 50% off right now because this would have been animals that sold at a show. And we're going to try that. We're going to do it when we have snakes to do, and we'll see what happens. For some of these sort of like odds and ends, excess males. Special notes for species and species composition in the collection for 2025. I am pairing less corn snakes this year, and I'm still pairing a good amount, but if you go back through your like sales records and you can tell how many corn snakes you sold each month at a show, really you can just like work backwards and be like, how many corn snakes do I need to make to satisfy my market's, pet corn snake demands? And the same thing is true for online. I didn't have very many corn snakes online last year, so maybe I have like a poorer understanding of what I'm supposed to be making. So we're going to go kind of light, see what happens, and just try it out. Because people want some of them. They don't want infinity, and it's not fair to make infinity. I picked projects that were some stuff that I like a lot, like Miami Okiti stuff, lava stuff, cinder lava stuff, ultramel shatters. So like pretty fun stuff. And if I need a wholesale them, I need a wholesale them. The hardest corn snake to sell is the one that looks kind of normal, but you know it's something else, but maybe they don't. I just wouldn't pair those ones for a while. Maybe later, if the economy ever comes back, you can pair them. I feel like, and maybe people correct me in the comments, I have had basically no Chinese purchasing inquiries in later 2024 and definitely now. So maybe they went somewhere else, or maybe they're busy not wanting corn snakes. So that sort of market has dried up a bit. And at shows, corn snakes sales do not scale with number brought. So if I were to bring 20 to a show where I feel like I always sell about 3 to 4 corn snakes, and then same time next year, so same sort of how much tax return they have left, bring 60, you don't necessarily triple the number of corn snakes you sell. That's why I think for some species, maybe all of them, who knows, that you cannot induce demand with supply at a reptile show. Maybe you can online. I don't know though. Like if all of a sudden, let me think of something that's kind of rare online. Angolan pythons. And rare in person. If all of a sudden there were 50 additional baby Angolans online, would 50 more sell per quarter, per year? Would they sell eventually? Maybe. But demand isn't induced by it just being available. Demand is induced by people wanting it more. So how do you make them want it more? You go back to the content side. Content should beget production, not you produce a bunch of shit and then you're like, why can't I sell it? And I should probably like retroactively make people want it. No. People need to want it because they want it, and then they're happy and waiting when it's available. And then you sell out to all the people who now want it because they know it exists. That's where I'm at right now with that. Because you do not want to like way overblow your supply side. It's not ethical. Let's put it that way. Just saying. I know that's not a popular opinion, but here we are. There's a very strong time burden of cupping up dozens, hundreds of snakes, or whatever other species you have, hauling them to a show, and then when you haul them back, retreating them for mites. If I don't have to do that, it would save a lot of time, honestly. Honestly, it would. Because I've sat and cupped all day for a show. And then still sold like just a percent of them. I don't know what the point of doing that is. I'm not in that game. I'm good. Next. Gray corn snakes sell pretty poorly in person at shows. And poorly is relative here. If they were all $50, they'd probably sell equally as good. But if you're like, this gray one's 80 and this pink one is 80, if they're not price sensitive, they'll just pick the one that looks better. If they're price sensitive, they'll just buy all the cheap ones. Either gray corn snakes need to be cheap, $50, or they need to go online, where only the people with taste and dignity are looking for snakes to buy. Because gray snakes are way better than other color snakes. So we'll just keep them online. That's my opinion. I know other people's mileage may vary. I've been told many times that like Snow's AMLs sell better online or in person for corn snakes, and that is true. But it sort of goes deeper than that, because I don't really know what these people want in person. I think most people walking around just want to walk around and look at stuff, and they don't really want anything. And that's just the way it's going to be. So instead of cupping up 100 corn snakes to take 95 home, we'll just leave them online, and then people can browse and think about what they want at their leisure. We love that for them. We love that for me. And I'm sure like this is a colubrid problem in general. Another colubrid problem, female colubrids sell better than male colubrids, and that's to baby breeders and pet keepers. So if you were going to bias your wholesaling, you would just sort of preferentially wholesale mostly males. Like early in the season, I may utilize that, may not. Depends on if I overdo it or not in terms of production. Young colubrids do not seem to tolerate these 4 to 5 day show travel schedules. They will look dehydrated, so you can give them water. The Harbin said they missed them, which apparently is good enough because they'll drink the dewdrops, which is fine. Older animals of the same species seem to do better because they have like a better surface to volume ratio. So they could probably still be offered water, but they just don't look halfway crispy crittered just because they've been in transit for 4 days. And if you're like, Jessica, why would they be in transit for 4 days? And I'm like, it's because, you cup them on Wednesday, you travel Thursday, you arrive Friday for setup, they vend for a couple days, and then they come home Monday, and they hypothetically go back in their cage Monday afternoon. They need water in that time. Corn snakes seem to do worse than other kinds of snakes just because they're so small. But same size, like same gram range, hognose seem to do better. I think it's because they're fatter. They probably have more water internally, but they all deserve water. So keep that in mind if you're doing shows. If the show's short, then they're fine. But long shows, you know, they need water. Some rare species do not appear to sell better at shows than online, even if people will tell you they do. Like if it's rare enough, nobody wants it, except for 15 people in the country. So the 1,000, 1,500 people who go through the door at that small show, some lucky dog may know that what it is and may want to buy it. But you're mostly bringing that species there to sort of promote it, explain to some people what it is, but not sell it. So instead of sort of worrying about hauling different rare species out, for me, it'd be better use of my time to just talk about it on a YouTube video. Be like, looky here. Here's Japanese rat snakes. And then whatever sort of limited number of shows I do decide to do, they will have to pre-order for pickup to be brought to the show. Nobody cares, really, right now. Or maybe even knows, if I have it on the table but it kind of looks like a worm, that it's something distinct. I am pairing less ball pythons this year. I'm picking pairings that are sort of personally fulfilling, and I'm desperate to keep them somewhat novel for the market. So it's like tri-stripe stuff, monsoon stuff, and krypton stuff. There's a little bit of other stuff, but not very much. I'm shooting for like 15 clutches, and that is hopefully good enough for everybody involved. If I have a little bit more, it's fine. There's still a lot of demand for like cheap ball pythons, cheap ones. So like, if I have a bunch of extra bananas, that's fine. But there is not a ton of sort of mid-tier demand. There's some. I'm mostly just doing pairings for me at this point, and you can decide if that's a good idea or not. Or if it's even ethical at all to breed any ball pythons at all. But I think it is. It's just a matter of recalibrating what we're doing with our time. I'm still working on like reevaluating the number of adults of different species I have. So like less adult ball pythons would be good. Less adult corn snakes would be good. And I've already sold down quite a few adult corn snakes. And maybe less of just some species in general. Might get rid of the leopard geckos because they're actually really hard to sell for some reason. Don't ask me why. They seem like good pets, but here we are. Like changing the composition of the adult animals that are within the species I still want to keep. Maybe like seems insane that like hypo is one of my favorite ball python genes, but I only have 2 visual hypos. Why is that the case? What a tragedy. Just continuing to like refine what I'm doing and think about what's a good use of my time in the limited context of limited ball python breedings is sort of where I'm at right this second. And that the amount of pairing of sort of rarer species is the same. That's because I don't have that many of each individual one anyway. So if I did one clutch last year, I'm doing 1 clutch this year. It's the same amount. So it's not that different, but I am sort of squishing down the corn snake number, the ball python number, and boas. I usually do 2 to 3 litters a year anyway, and I don't have huge females, so they don't lay a lot of babies or give birth to a lot of babies. So it's kind of a wash in terms of differences. I have been cycling out some adults locally because I have the grow-ups from 2020 that I held back that are getting big enough to need those slots. So that's sort of what I'm doing. Because I don't necessarily want way more boas. I want the same amount of boas that I'm just having fun with, working on. Expensive hognose snakes did not sell well for me. They could sell well for you, but by expensive I just mean 500 and up. Even in Dallas, I didn't really sell them, which doesn't mean anything. But I might keep those online only and do 500 and under at shows and maybe bring one more expensive one to the show. It might be a problem of like there's not enough hognose on the table for a hognose person to come even bother to look. But if I bring 2 rows of lavenders and lavender arctics and don't sell any of them, was it worth it? No. And as always, There's things I want new. I want new things. I want rain rat snakes. I want variable kings. I want savu pythons. I want ATBs. I would like a Candoya. I don't even know which one. I want Kenyan Samboa, kind of. I still like crave sort of trying stuff out, figuring them out, building new cages, having fun. Can I have fun? I want fun. As we sort of titrate up some things and titrate down other things, I do still want new things. And new things in species I already have. It's not rocket science, but a lot of that sort of ability to pivot was hampered last year. I literally basically broke even last year in terms of like the cost of everything. But if the snakes that I'm selling aren't really covering the cost of the snakes that are still home that need feeders, care, and attention, time, then like there's not a lot of extra money to go buy savu pythons. We're changing it up again for 2025. And don't get it twisted. I'll probably still do some shows. I want to pick the best one, the best two, maybe the best three. And then have a little bit more of a laissez-faire attitude about like booking an extra show just to be like, ugh, I got too much of this. Let's just book it and take 20 of these and hopefully sell half of them. If I do that, I think it'll be easier to keep up with all of my other goals. So sometimes I'm like, I shouldn't only do spring shows and forego all fall shows. Because that's when you have like max baby colubrids. It's really early in the late summer, fall time period. And you're like, why do I have so many snakes right now? And last year I was like, oh yeah, hopefully gotta make a ton. I will bring them to this show. And if I bring 60, I could sell 20%, 30%. That did not really materialize. It wasn't easy to like quickly sort of cut the numbers down early shows. I still sold basically the same amount of snakes per show. It was independent with supply side. So that's why I'm like, if you stay home and market them better and sell them mostly online before shipping closes for Christmas, you'll have them all photographed and ready to go going into the next year, hypothetically, and then you could do shows again. But if you're like doing shows hoping people will buy enough to reduce the sort of baby burden, it doesn't really work. Or at least it doesn't work here for me and for the species that I keep. Maybe it does for you. Your mileage may vary. Don't fucking listen to me. And there are some people who have $500 expenses for a show. They gross $5,000 to $8,000 every time they go because they sell spiders or something, and their cost of goods sold is $500. Please don't stop doing shows. You're doing great. Don't talk to me because like the per unit time of shipping all of those is not as it would cost a lot of labor versus taking them all to a show and being able to sell 100 units. It's just I don't sell 100 units at most shows of a particular species of snake. So me standing there explaining to them how to take care of it and then sending the deli home for a $50 to $100 snake, it's not any different than me explaining them to take care of it online for the same snake and shipping it. But I get to be home and I don't have the expenses. That's where I'm at. And also to be clear, super clear, it's not an indictment of any particular kind of show. Because there are some people who go to the exact same show I do. They make $50 and I make enough to cover expenses plus $1,000. And then some people make $8,000. Same show. It has a lot to do with like inventory and maybe marketing style or whatever. And that's fine. But we're talking about me right now because this is the future of Hare Hollow Farm. That's it. Did we learn anything? No. But we did learn that we have sponsors. So Small-Toed Xotics, Gray Filmy Snakes, Venus Reptilia, Bravo Zulu Ball Pythons, Powerhouse Pythons, Stoneage Ball Pythons. All of them are very cool. Please check them out. Links, as always, in the video description. And look at all these members. Oh my gosh, they're so... beautiful, attractive, STD free, very interesting. Love long walks on the beach. We love members. If you want to be a member, you get access to a very special, very cool member live. It's actually not that cool. It's mostly stuff like this. Sometimes we have special guests. Sometimes we talk about specific shows, specific topics. It's like a podcast, just a little bit more loosey-goosey because it's a member live. Did we learn anything? Did I ask that yet? One day we'll learn something, but that day isn't today. See y'all next week. Bye.